Thank you very much. That was really inspiring. And I also want to add a couple of other thanks. One is to the Loxahatchee National Wildlife Refuge staff and volunteers who hosted them for a field trip on Monday. I think they had a pretty good time getting to see some of the Everglades. And also just again to thank Kathleen, because she also helped coordinate the visit and ferry everybody around and sort of serve as a general guide for those folks. I really appreciate all that everybody did. Okay, our last session is lightning talks, science advancing Everglades resilience and sustainability. You know, as we've talked before, engaging youth is one of our primary missions here of this plenary session in particular, and we want to foster professional development of university students as they aspire to further their career and become future leaders in the environmental arena. What we did this time is take each of the three major universities that we interact with. There are others, but we just had to focus on three: Florida International, Florida Atlantic, and the University of Florida, and ask each of them to pick one undergraduate or recently graduated student that would give a talk sort of fitting with our theme of our conference, a 5-minute lightning talk, and then to have a few minutes for questions and answers. And so what we've done, we'll go through 3 of those. We have a microphone on each side, and after their 5-minute talk, we'll just have a few minutes for questions and answers. So I hope a few of you will come up and engage these very bright students and ask good questions. Our first lightning talk presentation is by Mrs. Jordan Waldron, a recent graduate of Florida Atlantic University in Boca Raton. She earned a BS in Biological Sciences with a concentration in marine biology and a certificate in environmental science from Florida Atlantic University in December of 2018. She graduated with honors distinction as a result of completing an undergraduate thesis on her research with Dr. Stephen Kajura in FAU's Elasmo Branch Laboratory, studying the seasonal migration of blacktip sharks to southeast Florida. And exciting now that Jordan plans to continue all of this with starting as a student lab tech, or starting as a lab tech in the same lab that she came through. So, Jordan, thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Jordan Waldron, and my research with the FAU Elasmo Lab is on the seasonal abundance and spatial distribution of blacktip sharks in southeast Florida. So, the blacktip sharks migrate along the United States eastern seaboard every year. In the summer, they can be found off the coast of Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina, although some do migrate as far north, as north as New York. And in the fall, they migrate south so that in the winter they can be found by the thousands directly off of southeast Florida's coast. So my research is interested in this overwintering phase of the blacktip shark migration. We used aerial surveys to record HD videos of the shoreline to about 200 meters offshore from Miami up to Jupiter Inlet. And for video analysis, we split this transect into 7 sections based on easily visible inlet jetties so that we were able to calculate specific shark densities to track their distribution while they're in southeast Florida in the winter. And due to the light sandy sea floor and shallow clear waters within our transect, we were able to identify, distinguish, and count individual sharks either manually or using ImageJ software's counting tool if it was a really large and dense aggregation. And so what we're seeing is that the highest shark densities are within the 2 most northern sections of our transect, so from Boynton Inlet to Palm Beach Inlet and Palm Beach Inlet to Jupiter Inlet. So for 2011 to 2014, the highest density within one section for the entire year all were between Boynton Inlet and Palm Beach Inlet. And except for 2013, because there was a beach renourishment project that muddied up the water, so we couldn't get accurate counts for that year. But then in 2015, the highest shark densities for a section shifted north so that it was between Palm Beach Inlet and Jupiter Inlet. And as you can see, these densities, these highest densities for the entire year are much lower than previous years. So for example, in 2011, we had over 2,100 sharks per square kilometer. And in 2018, the highest density we had was 324 sharks per square kilometer. So over the past 8 years, we're seeing an overall decline in shark abundance within our transect. So this graph has the years on the x-axis and the highest count for the year on the y-axis. So in 2011, we had, for all sections on one day, over 12,000 sharks, and then in 2018, we had 2,800. And so This doesn't necessarily indicate a decline in the population size of the northwestern Atlantic subpopulation. Instead, it kind of just suggests a shift in their migration patterns, so they aren't going to the areas that they used to be, which are within our transect. And when we compared this overall abundance with the average water temperature between January and April in southeast Florida, we saw an inverse correlation, and so like water temperature is steadily increasing as we're seeing that decline in shark abundance. And so water temperature could be an important contributing factor to the migration of sharks, whether they're following optimal water temperatures for their own thermoregulation, or they could be following temperature-dependent prey populations. But either way, if water temperature is one of the main factors in the blacktip shark migration pattern, if ocean temperatures continue to rise, it could potentially lead to the migration moving to overall higher latitudes, where the sharks could go to farther north areas in the summers and then not be going as far down south in the winters. And because these are important predators, this could potentially lead to ecological imbalances along the entire United States eastern seaboard. So I'd like to thank the FAU Office of Undergraduate Research, the Honors Biology Program, the Colgan Foundation, my advisor, Dr. Kajura, who is not here, and I'll take any questions.
Questions? Everybody's going to be quiet in the morning. I'll start with one. So can you speak a little bit about the overall role of sharks in the ecosystem? So let's say the migration north or continues to shift to the north. Mm-hmm. What kind of more ecosystem effects would you expect to see?
Well, based on my cute little charts here, I was indicating how if there's more sharks farther north, there could be decline in the prey populations, and then if there's less sharks down here, there could be an increase in the prey populations, and then it could kind of cascade. So
any other questions? One other thing, go ahead, step up to the mic if you would so everyone can hear your question. Phil, it's right behind you.
Are you guys seeing any changes in reproductive activity with the shift in temperature?
Well, they reproduce in the summer up near the Carolinas, so it's not really something that we're looking at, but that is a very interesting thing to look into. Yeah.
Another question? All right. Could you please go to the microphone, because no one can hear you unless you, it's right behind you. Right away.
Is their migration part of the mullet run, by any chance?
Yeah, it could be. It could be one of the prey populations that they could be following. We haven't done any data analysis on when mullet are here and then the sharks are here, but we do see a lot of, in the aerial surveys, we see a lot of bait fish and schools of fish, and the sharks are always near them. So.
Okay, thank you.
So other than the Atlantic coast, are there other studies that are similar to yours that are showing similar patterns or different patterns, like on the West Coast, or is this just the main area?
Yeah, I mean, sharks in general, some of them go through this pattern. In Israel, we're starting a new project because they noticed a migration in sharks pretty similar looking to what our surveys look like. So I'll let you know what happens with that. But yeah, it's a trend that we're seeing.
Good. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Hi. I wanted to know what kind of field work you did and if you have any memorable field work experiences that you wanted to share with us.
Well, the only field work that went along with this project was the survey flights. So I actually only went on one survey flight. And I mean, it was really cool because you could see, all the sharks and all the different marine life that are right on the coast, and people don't realize how close they are, like dolphins and manatees and sharks. And so yeah, that's cool. But the lab in general, we do a lot of tagging too. So one of the PhD students, she tracks these sharks, so that's how we know that they're going farther north too, because we don't look at that area for mine. But yeah.
Are you involved at all with the, there's media interest always around at least West Palm Beach area. Is it Kathleen, the great white shark?
Yeah.
So are you guys involved with that at all?
No, not really, but we think maybe because, blacktips are prey to larger sharks, so maybe they could be eating the blacktips, but yeah.
Hey, anybody else? All right, thank you very much, Jordan. That was wonderful.